Greetings and welcome to the energy of Aries. This is Ron from Terror of the Twin Sun. Terror of the Twin Sun is a functional division within the Order of the Twin Sun. Please take only what you will. And the willpower is actually very strong right now for the energy of Aries. And I usually never use very in consecutive fashion. I'm seeing here a lot of faith when it comes to the ability to produce an effect, okay? With Jupiter in retrograde conjunct Chiron in retrograde in the ascendant, there's something about knock-up effects or a certain suspension of disbelief that comes with the energy of Aries, in which you produce an influential effect on others, meaning that your actions and how you are perceived at the get-go is extremely dynamic, and there's an element here of the fanatic that comes out, okay, that people who are much like you in terms of the passions that you're producing in order to produce a faithful or some sort of general effect on others when it comes to your presence. It's undeniable, and you will see mirrors in terms of others who share your verve, your sort of approach to life. Okay, there's a pioneering aspect here, and you bring in these other people who support you in terms of solar Leo energy. Okay, and this is in the fifth house, in your fifth house, meaning that there's a very creative harmony when it comes to the realization of the self through the element of fire, okay? And the irony is that fire, as it expands in with Jupiter in Sagittarius and the Sun in Leo, there's a lot of things that can come about, primarily the disintegration of ego, that allows for great realizations or insights to come in. The idea here is to wait for Jupiter to go direct and for those things to manifest. But I see nothing but good in terms of creativity, as well as working with children and learning or being childlike in some sort of way. And also walking the path of the Fool, which has to do with leaps of faith, as well as the ability to believe in oneself, okay? So lots of confidence for the time being. Speaking of which, also, Aries is sharing Taurus in the first house. Also possibly moving into the second house. It really depends, maybe even to the 12th house. But there's a stellium of the raging bull, also the bull that is somewhat moving forward, okay, in very heady ways to produce an effect. And for you in particular, it has to do with the sort of delayed response of your friends, okay, trying to figure out what they are doing in terms of their own limitations, trying to break through those. There's a sort of spiritual development that requires a great deal of patience for this particular stellium. And because Mars, your ruler, is in Taurus in the first house, at least for this particular reading, there is a strong indication here that the desires and the actions and the dynamics that have to do with friends come to a halt, or at least there's something about people who are extremely spacious, and they're somewhat distant and unavailable, that produces the effect that the bull must continue on without having to wait for anyone. And this is really no bullshit. This is really something of a dynamic where Taurus cannot have the patience, even though they are the most patient, one of the most patient of signs. There's something about this that speaks about the need to deal with realities head on and to come up with ways of dealing in a practical way to get things done, to get the ball moving. And this is auspicious, especially if you are in need of a sense of belonging in your own body, but also in places of work or places of domicile, of the home, of the inner world. I mean, there's a way for this type of energy in which you could place all of that into an inner quest to develop this self. And as you do this, it will nurture something in terms of the thirstiness of of the raging bull, okay, and the dragon's head, and Uranus in Taurus and Mars in Taurus, okay. The idea here is to relate this to others through example by going inwardly or dealing with your own routine, your own inner self, or perhaps with your own sense of home and belonging, and deal with that inwardly so that others may learn through this sort of this deep dive, okay. There's a strong indication here also of the sixth house being activated, in which your practicality very much takes precedence when dealing with others, when dealing with also your communities, when dealing with cities, or when dealing with collective social dynamics. Okay, and there's a possibility of primarily working hard in such a way that would produce an effect on a collective level, okay? And these would not be realized until much later when Pluto and Neptune go in direct motion. So, all in all, I'm seeing here a great deal when it comes to conflict with, not really conflict with others, it's just the unavailability of others. And as you go inwardly, a great deal can be realized in terms of where you should place your efforts, where you should find independence, and how to work with other independent agents of isolation, of people who are lost or alienated, how to work with them in such a way to become pioneering in some way, shape, or form in which a creative and harmonious thing can happen, and a gift which would and should emerge in terms of the healing of the subtle body, of the energetic body, and of also the self, of the house of the self. Ultimately, with this dynamic, there's a strong polarity, okay, that occurs here with Taurus in the North Node opposing the South Node in Scorpio in your 7th house, okay? So there's an ability here to find that the transformations that occur through others does not affect the actual connection of authenticity, of depth, and of intensity that you may share with others. The idea here is to have respect, not only for yourself, but also for others in terms of their own transformations, which may be very much tied and regimented by the collective evolution of humanity as a whole. Okay, so it has to do with realizing this trip and the journey of humans collectively as a whole to get to these cultural states of becomingness. And all that in a nutshell, essentially, I'm seeing here nothing but good in terms of your own realization, self-realization, for the energy of Aries, at least for the month of August, on the 1st of August at 10:45 GMT. I do wish you well, and I shall be doing tarot in due time. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.